start streaming button and then the go live button. Just go live. Just do it, computer. You got it. Well, can't say that's what I wanted for my first Instagram live experience, but we'll make it work. Okay. Hello guys. Trying to find you. Okay. We'll stop messing with things. We'll let Elisa and Doreen join back in, and I'm gonna just move you guys so you can actually fully see the mat, because I think that you won't be able to. Can I put this here? No, not easily. Well, we'll just make it work. Okay, sorry, Doreen, that was my bad. Yeah, I went to go change the lighting setting and I hit the cancel button. So that's what happened. My fault, not yours. Okay, well, back in the action. Let's get back into the yoga. So, happy hips. Let's start her off. Find that nice starting position that you want to get into. Seated, laying down. We will do some recline stuff. We'll roll up. We'll do a little bit of seated stuff. And then we will go from there, maybe a little all fours, maybe just a touch of standing, but probably not. We'll see where we get to on those fun adventures and activities. So, connecting in, always, I like to connect in with the body, with the breath, and taking just a few moments to kind of settle in. Let everything else fade away so you're not sitting here like a stress case. Just let whatever is on your mat be all that you are focusing in on. So starting to notice that body, starting to notice the breath, listening to how you're doing, how you're feeling, feeling those feels, whether that be a physical thing that you're noticing, maybe you're noticing those little areas of tension, or feeling maybe a little bit deeper into more of the emotional thing, maybe building some awareness of how are you actually feeling today, what is going on that way. Starting to let that settle in, and then maybe even making that choice of, is that how you want to be feeling? So if you've got that tension, maybe you start on letting it go. Maybe you take a big inhale breath, big exhale inside out. That's a great way to help let go of some stress. Even hearing a big exhale will tell your brain that it's time to relax. So I think that's really cool. So maybe you take another nice big breath in, nice big exhale. And one more, just to round things off. Big, deep breath, filling the lungs. Nice exhale. Finding that bit of softness. Beautiful. If you like to set an intention for our time together, go ahead and do so now. Just a little word, a little phrase of what is motivating you, why are you on your mat this morning, what are you hoping to get out of this time frame, and letting it be good. Beautiful. Start to wake up the body. A little wiggle into fingers, a little wiggle into toes. Maybe you start to roll through the wrists and give the hands a little shake. Maybe you roll through the ankles if you're laying down already. So good. And starting to just wake up a little more. Maybe you drop the head from side to side. Beautiful. All right, let's try this again without ruining everything. Because now we have full sunshine, but I can't use the auto, otherwise it'll be way too dark. Okay, perfect. So let's roll on back and down. If you were in that seated position, finding that spot on your mat, you can connect the spine in. Relaxing through those shoulders, rolling those shoulders back and down. Have that nice little gentle tuck of the chin. I like to start with my knees bent, feet planted, but you can extend them nice and long, should that be your preference there. Take a nice inhale breath. See if you can get a little bit taller. See if you can start to connect in with those vertebrae, pressing in towards the mat. Take that exhale, letting everything relax. Now let's take another inhale, starting to sweep those arms up overhead and taking that nice big reach and stretch. Finding that little extra, opening up through the arms, reaching through the fingertips. Feeling that openness through the underarms and the rib cage, letting the stretch be through the whole torso. And then maybe you extend the legs nice and long, pointing through the toes, letting the big stretch be through the whole body. Nice big reach. And then take that exhale. Just let the arms hang overhead, just sinking in towards the mat. Everything softens. Let's take one more of those good morning stretches. Reaching up, oh so nice and tall. Pointing through the toes. Take that exhale. Start to hug the knees in towards the chest. Taking that little counter. Feeling that low back really press inwards. Maybe take that little rock from side to side. Just being real gentle on the body. Maybe you feel that a little more through the shoulders. Nice little massage through there. Or maybe it's all about that low back massage that you can get by drawing those knees in here. Knees can be nice and relaxed, or you can really draw the knees in towards the chest. Just totally what you're feeling and what works best for you. Beautiful. Excellent. All right, let's reach for the ankles, but instead of coming into a happy baby, we're just going to hang out in like a kind of a reclined cobbler pose, but with the knees and the feet up. So bring the soles of the feet together, hanging on right on at the ankles, and see if you can have the soles of the feet completely touching. So maybe your hips aren't quite open yet. Might be a little bit of a challenge to have the entirety of the sole of the feet touch. As you're holding on to the ankles, you can even add in a little bit more here. So adding a little resistance of actively pulling on the feet, pressing into the hands, and notice how that'll draw the knees open a little bit more. So it's not about forcing the knees back, but it's about creating that resistance through the hands and through the feet to help find some of that openness. So feet can be really close into the sits bones, or maybe even up a little bit higher. Just maybe playing around with how that activates and changes things. Excellent. Exhale, release the ankles. Plant the feet down in towards the mat. Beautiful. Let's extend the left leg nice and long, and let right knee fall open towards the side. So coming into that nice little falling tree pose, letting that right knee find this little bit of openness. Maybe you feel that kind of right in the crease of the leg, more so on the inside or perhaps on the outside, just depending on where you're holding that tension. That right foot can just be relaxed, or you can even start to gently press it a little bit more in towards that left, almost like that standing leg, just like you would do in your standing tree pose and posture. But as we do this recline, it's all about finding some openness through the hips. So working on finding that relax, that release, and see if you can work with the body to let go of some of that tension that might be hanging out in the right hip. Beautiful. I'm going to activate into that left foot, just bringing the toes pointing up towards the ceiling, but nothing too crazy, not overly pressing out through the heel, just more so not letting the foot fall over towards the side. And then I want to add in a little bit of side bend into this as well. So I'm going to come into what I call boss arms, interlacing the fingers and tucking them under the head, letting the elbows fall open, finding that nice little stretch through the shoulders. Keep those shoulders rolling back and down. And then here, I actually really love to go away from the knee. So I have my right knee bent. And I'm just going to add a little wiggle towards the left, trying to find some openness through that right side body, getting into a bit of a stretch through that rib cage, through the underarm. Wiggling maybe just a little bit, or maybe really kind of move those shoulders over finding some depth and some openness. So ideally, I'm trying to have my elbows still planting down and in, and I'm feeling a little bit of a stretch right from the elbow through that tricep, through the underarm, and then through that right rib cage, and then connecting all the way down into that hip, feeling that little gentle pull through that right hip, and maybe even all the way down to the knee. So I actually feel it a little bit into my hip flexor and into my quad. If you are not feeling it all of those places, that is a-okay. Either maybe you have a little bit more openness, or maybe that's a sign that you can wiggle in a little bit deeper, finding a little bit more depth through that side body. Or maybe even pressing that right leg down, activating into some of those muscles there. So option to just enjoy the softness that exists, letting the body just melt down, or you can start to activate, actively trying to press that right elbow down. You can see that mine is a little bit lifted here, and actively pressing that right knee down. Let's take a nice full inhale breath, breathing in nice and deep. Take that full exhale. And then start to wiggle the head and the shoulders back towards that center line. It's okay if you don't find it right off the bat. Sometimes you even need to gaze up at the feet to see what's going on there. So finding that nice line. I'm going to release my hands alongside the body, just relaxing through the shoulders. And I'm going to start to bring that right knee back up, pointing towards the ceiling, planting that right foot in towards the mat. I'm going to grab onto that knee with my left hand, so reaching across the body for that knee, and then starting to roll onto that left hip, coming into a twist. So trying to keep that right shoulder planted down, rolling over, maybe just gently maybe you have the foot planted up really high. That feels actually really good on the IT band. So it's not cheating, it's not taking anything that you're not supposed to be taking. It's actually a wonderful variation of the twist, or you can let that knee start to fall in. That'll get more depth into the rotation through the spine, so it just makes it a little bit twistier, feels different ways on the hip. And so take what you actually need this morning. It's the good old sound of the garbage truck in the background. Beautiful. I have my left hand just hanging out on top of the leg. I'm not actively pulling down, but I'm just letting the weight of the hand add in that extra little bit of depth towards the hip and towards the twist. Beautiful. One more nice inhale. Full exhale. Beautiful. Start to release this twist, making sure that head's in a nice neutral position, and then starting to roll onto your back. Bring that right leg up and hugging that right leg in towards the body and giving it a nice big squeeze, either holding on at the top of the knee, maybe you hold behind the knee, I don't know, maybe you're hanging out holding the shin, wherever you're holding on to the leg, it really doesn't matter. But let's activate back in towards that left foot. So just bring those toes back up towards the ceiling, and let's extra activate. So actively pressing that right or that left heel as far as possible, giving that foot a nice flex, and drawing the toes in towards the body. Little tuck of the chin. Beautiful. Letting it feel good. Really drawing that right knee in, starting to feel that squeeze on the right side. Beautiful. Keep that left leg nice and active. Let's switch our grip towards the back of the knee and start to bring that foot up towards the ceiling. So maybe you only come up a little bit, so more so the toes pointing up, or maybe you're working on extending a little longer, getting the sole of the foot pointing up towards the ceiling. Anywhere there in between, as long as that feels something on the hamstring, is ideally what we're working on feeling into right now. So trying to feel that sensation. If you want to make it more gentle, bend through that left knee. Plant that left foot down. You'll notice that kind of changes the angle of the hips and might make it a little bit easier to find that extension of the foot or the heel going up a little bit higher. So your choice on where you're at. If you like that extra intensity and challenge of that leg, left leg being extended longer, you're welcome to. If you notice even on me, my foot kind of points in a different direction when it's nice and long. So just working on finding that openness. I actually really like the feeling of that left knee bent. My low back presses in. I've got a little tuck of the tailbone happening. Feels really good. And now I'm going to add some movement here. So yesterday I was chatting about working on your mid-range. So we all have an end range where it's like that's the maximum. We couldn't possibly go any further. Which is an interesting place to be. Lots of times that's where we think we need to hang out in order to build stretch or length through those muscles. As you find that end range and you hang out there and you just hold and hold and hold and hold. But your body doesn't really respond that way. Your brain might feel that stretch, but there's actually zero stretch starting to like there's no lengthening of the muscle happening at the end range. The body's main focus is protecting the muscles and protecting those joints. So if you ease off a little bit, finding more of that mid-range where it feels really easy, and then you activate the muscles, contracting them. So that's why I have a flex of the foot here, adding some stuff in like that, and then you can add in going in and out of that end range. So activating through the muscles and then being able to, with control, move in and out something closer towards that end range. That is what is going to work on lengthening that muscle. No, your brain will not have that same stretchy feeling and sensation, but you'll actually be able to make so much more progress in lengthening the muscles, because the only thing a muscle can really do is contract. It contracts, which means everything shrinks in and comes together and you stabilize, and that's where your strength comes from. So with that little bit of knowledge, okay, let's work with muscle contraction. So we've got the flex of the foot, starting to draw things in, and then going in and out of that end range. Kind of neat. All right, I chatted for a while there, so hopefully this right hamstring is feeling pretty good. Finding that little bit of openness. Let's bend through that right knee, planting that right foot down. So now I have both feet planted. I'm just going to take a little windshield wiper, dropping the knees from side to side. There we go. Just a nice little release. So maybe even already you feel a little difference from one side to the next. All right, let's find that stillness. Let's extend right leg nice and long now. Starting to activate into that right foot. Just bring the toes up towards the ceiling, just so we have nice alignment from the foot to the ankle, the knee, and into that femur, into the hip bone. Letting those things feel good. And then start to let that left knee draw open. So coming into that reclined fallen tree position, knee can just fall outwards towards the side. You can start to press that foot in towards the leg. And if your knee is up quite high and you'd rather have a block or a pillow underneath as well, that's totally an option if you don't want just that pull of gravity pulling the leg down. So whatever you need to do to add in that extra little bit of support. And then maybe you already feel a pull sensation happening through the hip. Starting to feel just into how the body responds to that little external rotation of the leg and coming outwards. Maybe you can really let that knee melt on down. Maybe it feels really good. Notice what the back is doing here. Are you really arching through that low back area? Like, can you really stick a hand in underneath that area? And can you take a little moment and just maybe activate a little bit into that? Starting to straighten up the back. Like, the spine has a natural curve to it, but sometimes we don't want those lower ribs really puffing outwards. We want everything to be just a little bit more contained. All right, let's add in the arms, interlacing at fingertips, making a nice little pillow for the head, coming into that nice little boss arm. And then adding that little wiggle towards the right. So drawing away from the knee, trying to get that nice stretch feeling from all the way from the elbow through the underarm, the rib cage, all the way down to the hip. Maybe you work at that mid-range and you work on just squeezing through the muscles and releasing, creating tension and letting it go. Or you just find softness. There is still some value in just holding the poses and posture. It's so interesting as I study what like active versus passive stressing, and how to lengthen through muscles. I'm conflicted because I also have pretty strong yin practice or restorative practice where you just get into a pose and you hold it anywhere from 90 seconds upward to like 10 minutes. Like rocking a child's pose for 10 minutes feels just so soothing. What a nice way to relax. But there's different purposes towards that. I find that in your yin pose, it's much more an activity of the mind and trying to find a little bit of stillness. And it's actually working through and trying to process some of those things that get stored up through the body, whether that be emotions or traumas or positive things. Like just, we store some memories in ourselves. I know that sounds like weird, crazy things to say, but like there's like endorphins and hormones that are in our bodies. Those are actual chemical reactions that can be traced throughout the body, and so those leave a little imprint when those reactions occur. And sometimes those little imprints can be like the form of toxins, little toxins that get built up just from negative experiences. So that is a whole other fascinating level to yoga as well. As you start to stretch and hold, you can start to release some of those. You might not even have a certain memory or anything pop up. It's just letting go of that toxin and finding a little bit of healing through the body. Anyways, enough about that. That's really fun for me to chat out in my yin classes. So if you want to learn more, then come to a yin class or a restorative class with me, and we will discuss those things further. Beautiful. All right, let's start to maybe add a little bit more depth to this. Maybe you add just an extra little wiggle. Maybe you take just a big breath in and filling the lungs, breathing with the diaphragm. Take that nice exhale. Start to release. Start to wiggle the head and the shoulders back into alignment. Releasing the arms alongside that body. And then start to bring that left knee pointing back up towards the ceiling, planting that left foot. Beautiful. And start to bring that knee, giving it a nice squeeze in towards the chest. Relaxing through the shoulders, relaxing the jaw. And just hanging out here just for a little moment. Maybe you're really actively squeezing and drawing that knee in as close and as tight as possible. Beautiful. Maybe you're finding that little sweet spot on the hip. And then let's hold on to that left knee with the right hand. Left hand can reach out towards the left. And let's transition this into a twist. So rolling onto that right side of the body. Maybe that left foot just plants down. Knee going up towards the ceiling. If that shoulder is kind of reaching off and you're having some neck tension, just bring a hand in closer towards the body. It's a great little option here. So starting to get into that twist. Maybe you have a little wiggle and adjust the shoulders to keep rooted and grounded down. Option to even extend a little more through that right leg, that nice long leg. Playing with your twist here. Maybe you drop that knee down, feeling that extra little rotation. And I just naturally have that right hand just on top of the leg. Maybe you give that IT band a little rub, a little massage. Working through there. Connecting in, just taking a few breaths in this twist, feeling that rotation all through the spine and maybe feeling into that hip. How do the hip flexors feel? How does the IT band feel? Beautiful. One more nice breath here. Big inhale. Nice softening exhale. And let's start to roll back onto the back. Drawing that left knee in. Finding that nice squeeze. Wrapping hands around the knee. Back of the knee, the shin. Finding that nice little relax through the shoulders. Beautiful. And start to bring the hand to the back of the knee and start to bring those left toes, maybe just pointing up towards the ceiling, or maybe try to bring the sole of the foot pointing upwards. That option to bend through that right knee and to add just a little bit of ease into that. Starting to feel something through that left hamstring Extending that leg nice and long, nice flex of the foot, little tuck of the chin so you're not overarching through the neck here. So your option to play around with that right foot, maybe it's bent nice and big, maybe you extend it a little bit longer, just find what feels good on that low back and on that hip for you. And then let's activate into that left leg. So finding more of that mid-range where you're definitely not at your max. So maybe you need to release the leg a little bit or lower it down or add a bend to that knee. Trying to really flex through those toes, drawing them in, feeling something through the calf, through that bottom half of the leg. And then let's add in some of those nice pulses. So finding that mid-range and then going in and out of that end range. Working on lengthening through those muscles. Hanging out here for a little bit. So we'll take a number of pulses so that you can really start to feel and get into it. And working on finding length. Keep bringing those toes in, extending along through the heel. Even if you're doing this a little bit farther out, that still works. Trying to keep those little pulses a little bit smaller, so we're not really going for that whole leg lift motion, but just working with mid-range and end range, in and out, back and forth, feeling that through the muscles. I've released my left leg. I'm just working a little more on the hip flexors here. I also find this side to be a little bit tighter, so when I was holding onto the leg, I wasn't quite getting into that full mid-range. So just different ways to get in there. Let's keep taking just a few more. I know I chatted for quite a while on that other side, so we'll just keep that going. Maybe you already started to find some length here. Feel like now I could really add in that extra little bit with the hands. And drawing the feet a little bit more over the face. Beautiful. Let's take just a few more. Excellent. What have you guys been doing to cool off over the last couple days? If you're in the Edmonton area, and it's been killer hot, delightful. I'm glad we got some of these nice hot summer days. I'm glad it rained a little bit this morning. I was debating needing to water the garden. Actually, I was debating that yesterday. I probably should have. I don't think we got enough rain though. Might need to actually still water it today. Beautiful. All right, let's add a bend to that left knee. Starting to bring it back towards neutral. Release the leg. Plant that left foot down. Now I have both feet planted and just gonna windshield wiper, dropping knees from side to side. Starting to feel that little release. Option to keep knees and ankles together. That's one way to windshield wiper. It gets a little bit more twisty, more into the spine. Or if you walk the feet a little bit farther apart, then let knees and ankles kind of fall their own way. And that gets more into the hips. So playing around with those options. Beautiful. All right, let's find our stillness here. We heel toe those feet back towards neutral, planting them in nice and strong. Just taking a quick little bridge pose just to get into those glutes and hamstrings a little bit more. Roll those shoulders back and down. Make sure you've got lots of surface area to work with. And take that inhale and lengthen, get nice and tall. As you're trying to get taller, as you push into the feet a little bit, really connecting that low back and tucking the tailbone, finding all of that length. Exhale, engage the core, drawing that belly button in and press into the feet, lift those hips. Maybe you come up 20 or 30%, maybe you're at 50, 60%, maybe you're hanging out at that 80, 90%, really working on finding that openness. Really, as long as you're pressing into the feet, using that motion to lift the hips, and the legs will be nice and active. Maybe squeeze through the glutes as well. Activating more of that back line. Maybe roll some more weight into the toes, lifting the heels off the ground, keeping those quads nice and active. Just a great way to work that whole area of the body. Next, I'm going to plant my heels back in, pressing nice and strong, finding that edge, finding more of that end range, huge stretch. And exhale, roll it down, one vertebrae at a time, feeling that spine pressing in. So good, let's counter that, hugging both knees in towards the chest. Nice big squeeze, trying to draw those knees as close to the ribs as possible. Excellent, and then let's roll ourselves up to seated. So maybe roll onto your favorite side and press yourself up, or maybe take a little rock and roll, rolling over the spine and coming on up, finding that nice seated position. Beautiful. Feeling into those sits bones, maybe you give yourself that little wiggle. Beautiful. Let's just keep working with the spine and the low back and the back a little bit here. So let's take that inhale and start to sweep those arms, reaching it up nice and tall. Take that exhale, draw the hands towards heart center. Release it down. Inhale, sweep it up. Exhale, hands to heart. One more time, reaching it up. Exhale, hands come down towards your heart center. Pressing into those palms, into fingertips. Roll those shoulders back and down. And trying to bring the palm and the hands aligned with the elbows. So lots of times we just hang out relaxed here. But let's activate into those arms. A little squeeze of those shoulder blades as you lift through the heart. Excellent. Let's start by just taking a little bow here. So just bowing down a couple of inches, nothing too wild and crazy just yet. Where do you feel that? Do you feel that low back? Do you feel that hips? Let's come on back up. Let's engage through that core. So draw that belly button in, like you're activating into that low back. Take that little bow forward. And then that shift to where you're feeling it. Do you feel it maybe a little bit more into the hips, into the legs? Let's come on back up. And come on back down. Maybe come a little bit lower. Keep pressing into those hands. My elbows are floating above the knees here. So not finding that extra little bit, just using some of that strength. Let's come on back up. Beautiful. Take another bow down. Maybe come a little bit lower. Still engaging through that core. Still starting to feel that through the hips. I'm going to maybe add a little pulse in, playing around with that mid-range. And not quite the end range, but just feeling I still want my sits bones to be connected down. So as you lean forward, you might have felt them lifting up a little bit. So just playing around, hanging out here, core still engaged, arms are still active, squeezing through those shoulder blades, adding that little pulse, little bounce in. This is working those low back muscles. This is working into those hip muscles in just a deep way. I always have to have new stuff for you guys. Like I actually teach 4 hip classes a week. So actually 5. This week is 5 because I'm subbing one tonight. So, I got to keep it fresh for me too. So this is just kind of that little motion to work through that. All right, let's relax it down. Maybe you drop those hands down, planting them in. Create that little pull sensation. Roll those shoulders back and down. And maybe you walk the hands a little bit farther, but keep a nice flat back. Maybe you just tuck the chin. Maybe you relax down a little bit farther. Just finding with what works best for you. Beautiful. And let's start to press those hands, coming back up. Finding that nice seated position. And so as we work through that low back, let's keep going with that. So I've got my hands on my knees. I'm going to reach for my opposite knee, coming into a twist. So right hand reaches for left knee. Hand presses forward and then starts to spin open end around, reaching back behind you. Maybe it's just a little twist, hand is a little bit closer out towards the side of the hip, or maybe you reach back behind you, closer toward that tailbone in line with the spine. Take an inhale, let's find some length here first. Exhale, relax those shoulders and press into the fingertips to add a little bit more depth. Maybe gaze goes over that back shoulder. Just feeling a nice little twist. Nice inhale. Nice exhale. One more breath here. Breathing in. And using that exhale to release, letting it go. Going back towards center. So good. Take that inhale, breath, get nice and tall. Lift through the heart. Exhale, roll those shoulders back and down. Let's reach now for opposite knee, getting ready to twist in the other direction. So left hand to right knee. Right hand presses forward. Giving me the stop right now. Reaching back around. I don't know if I just dated myself there. Pressing in nice and tall. Finding that rotation. Sometimes songs just pop into your head, like you got little lyrics that just jump on in. Are you guys all singing it in your head right now, little Spice Girls? I actually think that every time I cue that version of the twist. First time I have actually said it out loud though, so thanks for putting up with me. All right, take that inhale, maybe add a little length. Take that exhale, maybe gaze goes over that back shoulder, finding that nice depth. Beautiful rotation. Beautiful. Let's take that exhale. Nice and full. Take one more big breath in. And then using that exhale to nice and slowly come on back towards center. And let's reach those hands just back behind you and switch the feet opposite foot in front or on top, or maybe use helping hands to help set the feet in that nice position. Hands on the knees. Take that inhale, lift through the heart. Little seated cat-cow breath here. So reaching that heart up, not letting the head drop back like you can if you really want, but protecting that neck. So just lifting through the heart, feeling that back bend. And take that exhale, tuck the chin in. Maybe even press into the hands. You're really arching and rounding through that spine. Take a nice inhale, counter that movement, trying to take a nice back bend, lifting through the heart. And take that exhale, tuck the chin. One more big breath in. Maybe use the knees to anchor, pulling into the legs gently as you roll those shoulders back and down. One more time, tucking everything in. And then find that nice neutral position. Let's bring hands down just in front of you here. Roll those shoulders back and down, nice flat back. And let's simply just walk hand over hand towards the left. Maybe you align the shoulders with the knee. Maybe you add a little more fold in to feel a little more stretch. Or maybe you stay up nice and tall and just starting to feel that. Maybe you start to feel that through the side bend. So it's a way to get into the side body that isn't necessarily that traditional just side bend. Maybe you walk your hands a little bit more towards the left or whatever direction you are going. Try to keep a nice flat back here. So that's where you start to get into those lower muscles that connect in that low back towards the spine and the hips. Adding that nice little twist around and keep that gentle little bow forwards. Beautiful. Nice and slowly walking hand over hand back toward that center line. And keep it going other direction. Maybe that heart is just aligned with the knee. Hanging out here, planting those hands. Making sure you can still roll that left hip back down. Sits bones still nice and connected. Maybe find a little more depth, either just walking the hands out a little bit further or adding some more rotation in, walking the hands a little bit more towards that right side. Beautiful. Taking one more breath here. Letting it feel good. Excellent. Walking hand back over hand, back towards center. And then let the heart, let the body melt down. You can round through the spine here, walking either those hands out, or just letting forearms or elbows plant on down, and maybe even you're still nice behind, you just round through the spine, letting the body feel good. I love to take that little sway from side to side. Either I just can't sit still, or I just really love the movement. I'm not too sure which it is yet. Nice inhale. Nice full exhale. So good. Let's start to press those hands, coming back up towards seated, stacking those shoulders right over the hips, finding that nice posture. Let's start to extend the legs nice and long and out in front of us. Maybe you're there already. Maybe you're just gonna join in there. Let's activate into the feet, working on that nice alignment of having the toes be equal distance away from the body, so you're not curling in or letting them fall outwards at all. Working on just mindfulness of the knees and the hamstrings. So if you naturally hyperextend the knees, so meaning that the knee joint, like really, I can do it with my fingers hyperextend, but I don't know if you can really see that extra bend, you know, if you hyperextend. And then imagine lifting through those kneecaps, or even keeping that gentle bend to the knee. You actually have to work harder in these kind of poses to protect that knee joint. Beautiful. Take that inhale. Let's lengthen through the spine, working on those nice postural muscles. Roll the shoulders, squeeze them up towards the ears. Nice big squeeze, push them towards the back of the room, and exhale, drop those shoulders down. Beautiful. Starting to let that feel really nice, really good. Using some of those core muscles, some of those low back muscles to keep the shoulders right over the hips. If you're still working on developing those muscles, even just sitting here might be a challenge. You might even need to add just a gentle little lean back. So that's how you make it more gentle, is even bring the hands along the side muscle or along the hips. That does take those abdominal muscles kind of out of the equation though, so I do recommend just taking a little moment, pressing down, having that reset, and then maybe just having the hands be to hover to give yourself that break as you need. So I've got my hands on my knees or just kind of on my thighs here. And let's work on that mid-range and activating in and out towards more of that end range. So I've got my feet nice and active. I'm actively pressing my sits bones down to try to get a little bit taller. And I'm going to work on that hinge from the hip motion. So right in the crease of the hip. And I'm just going to simply add a little bow forward, feeling that through the hamstrings. And come on back. You can imagine that just by sliding the hands down the knees and come on back. So it's not a huge motion. If you've got more intensity you're working through, then you can always have your hands be lower, but have a nice flat back. So imagine it being the heart that's working on connecting down towards the legs. I don't see who you're saying hi to, Doreen. Anyways, hi! If you're joining in for the first time, welcome to some yoga with Janelle, some real person yoga. So I believe every body is a yoga body. Beautiful. All right, you're gonna take just 2 or 3 more of these little pulses. So even if you had your hands back behind you, maybe you're just playing with bringing those shoulders a little more forward. Maybe you're really feeling that through those hip flexors. Oh, wild and crazy. So good. All right, let's find that nice neutral seated position. Let's give those legs a little bit of a break, coming into your cobbler pose. So bring the soles of the feet together, letting those knees fall open. Maybe take that just a little wiggle from side to side. I'm holding on at the ankles, but you can hold on at the knees, or even cupping the top of the feet. Maybe you've opened up a little bit into that low back, and holding the tops of the feet feels real good, real easy. It's already starting a bit of a forward fold there, and so you can accentuate that a little more if you want to get more into the inner thighs and into that low back area with a nice flat back. And we're lifting with the heart, leading it forward as we bow down and hinge from the hips. So finding that there, little tuck of the chin, beautiful. Excellent. So if you want to activate into this pose here, and although activating yesterday and today, I'm pressing my toes together, pressing the balls of my feet together and my heels together, as much of the foot that I can possibly smoosh together. That's what I'm doing. And then I'm also pressing my tailbone down, and then I naturally have engagement through my inner thighs as I work so hard with the feet. So it's just kind of like making a fist. The harder you squeeze your fist, the more muscles up your arm will start to engage, and start to use the same thing with the legs as you squeeze and press them in. So it's not really about pushing the knees downwards, it's about pressing the feet together and having that activation, and then maybe you play around with that little fold, adding more depth, coming in and out that way. Beautiful. How's that feeling for y'all? So good. Beautiful. All right, taking one more breath here. Nice inhale, full exhale. Start to press on back up towards that seated position. Bring those knees back in together. Maybe plant the hands alongside, taking that little windshield wiper, dropping knees from side to side. Maybe you go long and give your knees a wiggle, whichever you prefer to do to help release. Excellent. So good. All right, let's roll on back and down, coming back into a nice reclined position to finish things up. Keep getting into those hips, adding in some more depth. So finding that position, bending the knees, planting the feet, rolling those shoulder blades back and down, and feeling that low back pressing in. So good. Little tuck of the chin, connecting in. Take that big inhale breath, finding that bit of length. Take that exhale, belt on down. Beautiful. Let's bring that left ankle, start with left side, onto right knee, coming into that figure four or reclined pigeon. First by pressing that knee back. So see if you can start to feel something through the hip as you draw that knee towards the back of your mat. Nice big press and squeeze. And then relax, release, just bringing that left leg just to a little bit more neutral position. And then maybe you start to lift the heel up on that right foot. Maybe you lift the whole foot up, drawing the knees in towards the chest. That option to hang on to knee and ankle, maybe top of right knee. That back foot can be nice and relaxed, just kind of having a dangle here. Or maybe you reach on through that little hole that you created, grabbing for the back of that right thigh or top of the shin, whatever depth you'd like to add in on. I love to add a little rock from side to side here. And then drawing the legs in a little bit closer towards the body. You can always mix up the depth, so I always like to start super gentle and then add on from there. Listening to what the body needs, maybe reaching for the ankle, even for that right foot, trying to keep that chin just gently tucked though. So if you find yourself creeping onto the top of your head, you might be trying to get into this a little bit too deep. So either see if you can roll those shoulders down, a little tuck of the chin, or ease out of it ever so slightly, finding where the shoulders and the head can be relaxed on the ground. Beautiful. A little rock from side to side, finding all those sweet spots. Beautiful. And taking another full inhale. Nice exhale. Outstanding. Starting to relax. Releasing through that right leg, planting that right foot back down onto the ground. Let's take a little twist here, reaching those arms out nice and wide, making that nice tall letter T, and then let the legs fall down towards the right. So adjusting however you might need to. Maybe that left leg, knee stays up towards ceiling. Maybe that knee draws down towards the ground. Maybe even sliding that foot under the knee. That right hand can hang on top of the leg. Gaze can go to the left. Connecting in with that breath. Excellent. One more nice inhale. Full little exhale. Return that head towards a nice neutral position. Start to release the legs, drawing the legs back up, uncrossing. Maybe you take a little windshield wiper, just quick little release here. And then getting ready to come into the other side. So finding that stillness, bring that right ankle onto left knee, pushing that right knee back. So finding that openness, starting even here to feel that little bit of stretch. I noticed a huge difference even from like a couple of weeks ago doing these. I feel like that I have way more range of motion to draw that right knee back. A little more openness through that hip. Beautiful. Let's start to relax through that right side. And maybe starting to lift that left heel. Maybe you just simply hang up there and that's enough. Or maybe that left foot starts to draw upwards, reaching on for that right leg, left knee, reaching on through for the thigh. Making sure those head and shoulders are relaxed. Maybe taking that little rock from side to side. Finding that depth. Maybe you draw the legs in a little bit closer towards the body. Finding those sweet spots. Connecting in with the breath. Beautiful. Maybe you thank the hips for getting you through this class, working so hard for us. Excellent. Nice big squeeze here. Maybe you find that extra little bit of depth, finding that extra little pull sensation. And then start to release the hands, maybe dropping that foot down, reaching the arms out nice and wide and long, and dropping the legs towards the left. Gaze goes towards the right. The option to keep that right knee up towards the ceiling. Like, I just feel way more through my T-band and through the outer side of the leg. I even like to just add a little bit of resistance, just gently pushing that right knee back. So if that's what you want to explore today, that's a great option. Or the other option was letting that knee draw down towards the ground. You can also get into hip and IT band more into the glute this way, I find. But maybe you feel it through IT band here too. So just as long as you're feeling something, as long as that something feels good, or maybe just slightly challenging, but not painful. And that little scratching noise is my dog trying to crawl under the table. Are you struggling today? It's a low table. She struggles. She's a big dog. Taking one more nice big inhale. Nice full exhale. Starting to return that head towards neutral. And starting to release the legs, swinging them back up, uncrossing. Maybe you take just a quick little windshield wiper. Find your stillness. Draw the knees in towards the chest. Maybe now you reach through for the feet, coming into that happy baby. Maybe try a little cobbler's pose, noticing the difference between now and the beginning of class. Drawing those knees in towards the shoulders, feet go up towards the ceiling. Then this brings us to a little freestyle portion of the class. So if there's another pose or movement that you want to take, starting to play around with that now. I don't know, maybe you just want to embrace a little playfulness, letting the body feel good. Maybe you just want that reclined cobbler's pose, dropping the feet down, letting the knees fall open. Whatever it is, anything that you might need before settling into Shavasana. And finding that stillness, finding that final pose, whatever it might be. And let's connect in, taking 3 full breaths. Nice big inhale. Full exhale, let it go. One more big breath in. And release. Breathing it in, feeling the diaphragm, breathing into that abdomen area. And sighing it out. And taking all the time you need here in Shavasana. This is where I will roll up to say farewell. Thank you so much for joining in for a little free yoga, second last day of a full week of free classes. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you know anyone who could have used this class but didn't join in the live, feel free to tag them in the post or share it with them. I have no issues with you guys sharing this content. It's always nice and great. Well, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day filled with moments of joy. And I pray that you are always blessed. Thank you and namaste.